The mitzvah of Birkas Hamazon is one of the few brachas that are min HaTorah. Usually the mitzvah we're doing could be midrabanan or min HaTorah, but 99% of the time the bracha associated with the mitzvah is only drabanan. The bracha before tefillin, tzitzis, shofar, lulav, they're all drabanan. What's unique about Birkas Hamazon, not unique, it's the only one. There are other ones in the discussion. Birkas Hamazon is clear cut. Birkas HaTorah and others are a discussion. Machlokes Rishonim. Of course, it depends, as we'll see, what is the Chiyuv D'Oraisa, what you have to do, how much you have to eat. But the Birkas Hamazon is a din D'Oraisa. As the Torah says, V'yachalta v'sabata u've'rechta es Hashem olchecha ha'aretz ha'tov asher nosam lach. So the Torah tells us one has a mitzvah of achila and a mitzvah of seviyah. One has to do a ma'isa achil, one has to eat, and they have to be satisfied. So min HaTorah, as we'll see, the way we paskin anyway, that one has to eat in order to be chayiv and benching min HaTorah. We'll see one will have to eat a kabeya, but if you only eat a kazayas, perhaps you're only chayiv midrabanan in benching. In fact, that's what the Gemara points out in Brachas of Chaf Amid Beis, where it discusses Birkas Hamazon, discusses whether a woman is obligated in benching min HaTorah. Everyone agrees she's chayiv in benching because it's a lav zman groma. It's not a time-oriented mitzvah. It's a shaila whether the chayiv min HaTorah now. What's the issue? So that's a machlokes Rashi and the Bali Tosas. Why, according to the Sad in the Gemara that says they're only chayiv midrabanan, why would it be? So Rashi learns because of chalukas haaretz, that the women don't have a chelak in the haaretz, and therefore al eretz chamda tova, so they wouldn't be chayiv in HaTorah. Tosas rejects that, because what about Shevet Levi, Kohanim? They don't have a chelak either, and no one says that a Kohen or a Levi, Shevet Levi, isn't chayiv benching. In fact, our meaning is that a Kohen actually leads the benching. So Tosas gives another reason: Briska shachasamta v'sereno, v'altaraska shalantano bris v'torah. So either way, that's a separate discussion. Machlokes Rashi and Tosas on what would be the sad to say women are chayiv midrabanan. So the end of the Gemara there on Chaf Amid Beis before the new Mishnah. So the Gemara discusses an apparent contradiction in the Psukim. It says, Amru Malachi Asharis Lufnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribbono shel Olam HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kasav b'Torascha, it's written in your Torah, Asher lo yisa panim v'lo yikach shochad, you do not play favorites. V'alo ata nosei panim Yisrael. But is that true? Don't you play favorites to the Jewish people? Except Yisa Hashem panav elecha, that you do show favor. So there's an apparent contradiction in the Psukim. In fact, the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah on Dav Yud Zayin Amud Beis, the Gemara in Nida, I think Ayid Amud Beis, point out as well there's this contradiction, but in a different context. That we'll discuss more about it when we move into the month of Elul, not that far away, and Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. But it talks about in the context of tshuva. So it says, when do I show favor to you? When you do tshuva, that's mitzvahs b'anim l'makom. If before you go to you have to go to your fellow individual who you harm first for me to forgive you. Either way, that's the context over there. Now Gemara gives it in the context of Birkas Hamazon. So Amar Lahem, how do we reconcile the apparent contradiction? So V'chi lo esa panim Yisrael. He doesn't really answer the contradiction. He just says, of course I'm going to play favorites. Shakasavti li b'Torah, because as we say in Parashas Eikev, v'yachalta v'savata u've'irachta Hashem Elokecha, so we see it's the din of Tzaviyah, v'heim medaktekin al atzmam, and they are medaktek upon themselves, ad kezayis v'ad kabeya, that even though they're only chayiv and benching min Torah, if they eat a kabeya, the Jewish people bench even when they only eat a kazayit. So since they go out of their way and show favor to me, so how can I not show favor to them? So that's the Gemara in Brachos and Daf Chaf Amin Beis. So we see they do play favorite. So there's a famous Vilna Gaon in Mishlei which points out that why over here do we reconcile regarding Birkas Hamazon? There are other areas in the Torah where the Jewish people are machmir. Most famously, the Gemara Nida about the women have taken upon themselves to be machmir in different areas, and were machmir in other areas. I'd say, 9 days, different times like that. So why specifically here? So the Vilna Gaon points out, but just a little hakdama before we give you the Vilna Gaon. We read last week the Aseret HaDibros, and the Aseret HaDibros were given on the 2 tablets, on the Shtei Luchos HaBris. So why is it that God gave the tablets, the Luchos, on 2? Why not 10? Why not 1? That's what the Gemara in Kedushin goes into detail, and others, the Ramban, that represents the 2 different categories in Judaism. That Ben Adam L'Makom are the first 5, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Uyelecha, Shabbos, etc. And the last 5, or Sirtzach, or Tzinaf, or Signov, are commandments Ben Adam L'Chavero. So the first 5 are Ben Adam L'Makom, the last 5 are Ben Adam L'Chavero. The 5th one is Kivud Aim. That seems to be a Ben Adam L'Chavero. So that's what the Gemara in Kedushin tells us. We all have 3 creators, Mommy, Daddy, and God, and therefore it's the perfect transition, the Minchas Chinuch points out, between mitzvahs Ben Adam L'Makom and mitzvahs L'Chavero is the mitzvah of Kivud Aim, since it has both aspects, since your parents are your creators, and therefore they point out that that's why it's there. So we know there are 2 different categories. There's actually a 3rd category we're not going into, a Ben Adam L'Yatzmo category, but there are 2 basic categories, Ben Adam L'Makom and Ben Adam L'Chavero. And for one to be a fully observant Jew, one has to be meticulous in both sides of the tablets. Mitzvahs Ben Adam L'Makom and mitzvahs Ben Adam L'Chavero. So that's what the Vilna Gaon wants to point out here. The Vilna Gaon in Mishlei and Tovai Hu Yuvarech points out that the Torah says V'yachalta v'savata. So what does it mean v'savata? What is Kedei Seviyah? So Kedei Seviyah is a Suda. You're eating a Suda. You eat a meal. How many kabeyas are a Suda? So he says there's 3 beitzim to a Suda. So the Zohar points out as well that 10 kizesim equal 3 beitzim. So 10 kizesim equals 3 kabeya. So therefore, the person has a choice. They could either eat the whole meal, the whole suda by themselves, or they could share it with some people or with 9 other people. So that's what the Vilna Gaon says. On one hand, you would say, what? He's giving up his mitzvah daraisa. He could, if he eats a kabeya, or we'll see how much, he could get his mitzvah daraisa. But he's willing only to have a kazayas because he is he's sharing it with the aniyim. He's doing the mitzvah of tzedakah, of chesed. So therefore he's sharing all night, and therefore, what's the best of both worlds? Because then, now that he has 10, he could say God's name, Elokeinu, you could go into the Zeman. So that's what the Vilna Gaon says. The greatness, the reason why the Gemara brought down Birkas HaMazon as an example of the godliness of the Jewish people is because that exemplifies both. You want to exemplify both mitzvahs be'am l'makom and mitzvahs be'am l'chaveiro. Be'am l'makom you get to say Elokeinu, and be'am l'chaveiro you're sharing with people who are in need. And in fact, that's what the Yeshua's Malkov says similar, based on a Gemara in Brachas and Daf Mem Tesam and Beis. The Gemara talks about v'yachalta v'savata. So that's the Torah talks about that. So we have a Machokas, Reb Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. Reb Meir Savar v'yachalta zu achila. V'yachalta means eating. In reference to v'savata zu shtiya. V'achila b'kazayah. So Rabbi Yehuda's shita is, in order to be chayev and benching min Torah, you need a kazayas of food, and that's v'achila, ein achila pachas mikazayas. And the Svia is telling me you have to have a drink. And Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. Rabbi Yehuda savar v'yachalta v'savata achil sheyish bo Svia, an achila that has its own Svia. V'ezu kabeya, the size of a beya. So we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda that we need a kabeya, or we don't reject Rabbi Meir totally, as the Ramah brings down l'chumra. Let's say you have 2 people who had enough bread kabeya daraisa, and one drank and one didn't drink. So the one who drinks should do the benching, because according to everybody, he's chayev and benching min Torah. So it would come out, the Yeshua Yaakov points out, that if they got together, there'd be a big machokas. Should they bench or not? Because according to Rav Meir, you could use your chayev and benching even on a kazayah. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, you're not chayev. So therefore, so that's what it means, that they, in order to, when they ate together, so therefore they made sure that they either had less than a kazayas, and therefore everyone agrees in a chayev and benching, or you had more than a kabeya, and everyone agree that that's ad kazayas, ad kabeya. So we see again that the same concept, that the ultimate is combining mitzvahs bit adam l'makom and mitzvahs bit adam l'chaveiro, and that's what we see throughout. We see throughout Tanakh many other examples we have on this. The Meshach Chachmas, there's a famous goes in with 2 Meshach Chachmas. So Meshach Chachma in Parashas Tetzaveh, we just celebrated Tu B'Av and we just observed Tisha B'Av about Churban Abaye. So the Gemara in Baba Basra talks about what stone is the Beis HaMikdash going to be rebuilt on. So there's a machokas whether it's going to come from the ephod or it's going to come, as the Meshach Chachma points out, from the Choshen. The ephod represents Avodah Zarah, Deyas B'Adam L'Makom, and the Kosher represents ethical dinim, mamano, stealing, weights, etc. So therefore, what's the machokas? Which one do you need? Which stone is it going to come from? The stone of B'Adam L'Makom or B'Adam L'Chaver? Of course, the answer is that we need both. That, in order for the Beis HaMikdash to be built, we need both aspects, because that's what, as we see, the Churban Habayis was based on the big three, Benam Makom, and Churban Bayis Sheni was based on Sinas Chinam. So in order to be successful in Binyan Beis HaMikdash, we have to be Zayir in both mitzvahs ben Adam Makom and mitzvahs ben Adam Chaveru, and that's the Meshach Chochmah about where Yushalayim comes from two names that Avram called the Yura and Shem called it Sholem. So Yireh Shamayim ben Adam Makom, Sholem is ben Adam L'Chaveru. And that's the Yisod of benching, and the Yisod of the Aseret HaDibros, and the Yisod of all Torah is that one has to combine both mitzvahs ben Adam L'Makom and mitzvahs ben Adam L'Chaveru, and when we could rectify both sins ben Adam L'Makom ben Adam L'Chaveru, then the Beis HaMikdash will be rebuilt. The Torah tells us, "V'achalta, v'savata, uveirachta," that there's a mitzvah min Torah of birkas hamazon, of grace after meals, of benching, and there are many biblical mitzvahs, but this is one of the few biblical mitzvahs that are in the form of a bracha. 95% plus of all brachas we make are rabbinical in nature and midrabanan. However, Birkas Hamazon is the only clear-cut bracha which is min Torah. There's a discussion regarding other brachas. Machlokes Ramban regarding Birkas HaTorah, perhaps Havdalah. We could discuss those another time. But Birkas Hamazon is the only clear case of a bracha which is min Torah. However, not every benching we do is min Torah. So we'll discuss what are the parameters of when is Birkas Hamazon min Torah and when is it only midrabanan. So there seems to be an apparent contradiction between the Gemara in Brachas Daf Chaf Amud Beis and the Gemara in Brachas Daf Memches Memtes. The Gemara in Brachas Chaf Amud Beis points out, it talks about why God plays favorites to the Jewish people. So the Malachi Asher is, why do you play favorites to the Jewish people? Yisa Panim, so God said, how could I not play favorites? They do something unbelievable. I only obligated them to bench min HaTorah when they eat a kabeya, when they eat an egg, a volume of an egg. But the greatness of the Jewish people is even when they only eat a kazayis, an olive size, they even bench. So I'm not getting into the Chasim Sofer's question now, like, what do you mean? Isn't that a bracha of Atala then? Then what's the greatness? Maybe we'll get back to it at the end of this year. But the point of this Gemara is we see clearly that min HaTorah, to be obligated in benching, you have to eat a size of an egg, the volume of an egg, of bread, but a size of an olive, of a kazayis, is clearly only rabbinical. That's clear from this Gemara. However, if you go to the Gemara in Memches, Memtes, you find a dispute between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir. Exactly how much does one have to eat to be chayiv in benching min HaTorah? So Rabbi Meir says, it says v'achalta, and we know in general, we have a rule in Shas, in Halacha, ein achila pachas mikazayis. When we talk about a mitzvah of achila, whatever we're talking about, it's always discussed in terms of kazayis. So if the Torah says v'achalta, a legal definition of achila is a kazayis. That's Rav Meir's opinion. All you need is to be chayiv and benching in Torah is a kazayis. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees and says you need a kabeya.
Yom Kippur, only chayiv if he eats at least a kazayis.
Well, Yom Kippur is a different share. It's not a din in achila. It's a din in Yishuv Hadas in terms of in terms of how much you have to eat in terms of fasting. But it's not a din in achila. The normal din throughout Shas is achila is pachas mikazayis. So therefore, we have a machokas Rabbi Yehuda Rav Meir in terms of what it means. So according to Rav Meir anyway, it's clearly it's a steer in the Gemara. In the Gemara in Brachas, it's clear the Gemara seems to say categorically you have to eat a kabeya to be chayav in benching an egg, a volume of an egg. And from here, Rav Meir says, so what is the Iker Gemara? So that's a machokas, the Tosers and the Ramban, which is the Iker. So Tosers writes over there in Brachas Memches, Memtes, the Iker Gemara is Avchaf Amid Beis. To be chayav in benching min Torah, you need a kabeya. This Gemara, that's just Arasmachta B'Alma. That's not the main Gemara. The main Gemara is the first Gemara. And the Melchamos and the Ramban writes the opposite. The Yikar Gemara is here, like Rav Meir. It's a Kazayas. What about the Gemara in Brachas? That's just more of a Gadata. Like it's a story about the angels talking to God. It's not a Halacha Gemara. So it's a Machokas Rishonim, which is the Yikar Gemara, which is the Tafel. So therefore, according to Tosfos paskins to be chayiv in benching min Torah, you need a kabeya. I'll tell you how we paskin like soon. And the Ramban paskins like Rav Meir in the Gemara Memches. All you need is kazayas. So either way, there's a kasha on either shita.
And each of them notes that there is another interpretation. Yeah. And each of them quotes the other as the inverse.
Which is normal, because obviously I'm not going into all each different psukim they quote for the sources. I'm just pointing out that's a general machlokas, that you have different sources, and which ones you think are the primary sources and which is the incidental ones. But either way, so they point out. So we have a kasha. So according to Tosfos, that says the ikr is kabeya. So why? Because they say kabeya, you need to eat kadei sevilla. So a beya's volume is a satisfying amount. So the kasha according to Tosfos is, what does the word v'achalta teach me? I know v'achalta v'savata. V'savata teaches me I need a kadei sevilla. So what's v'achalta? So simple pshat is you could say, well, you need v'achalta. I need an achila sheyesh bo sevilla. Obviously, it's not telling me halach. There's no halachic significance to the word achila. It's a pragmatic one. Like obviously, if I'm going to be saveh, I have to eat. So it's v'achalta v'savata. But achila isn't the key word here. The key word is the savata. So actually, within the Bali Tosfos, you have a major machlokas achronim. If according to Tosfos, it's enough just to have a sevilla without how could you have a sevilla without an achila? Well, I should say, how could you have a sevilla without a halachic achila? So I'll give you a couple of examples, which are major nafkaminas. But number one is what's the definition of an achila? So again, if we go back to our standard definition of eating means I have to eat something in a certain time period. Kedei achilas pras is the expression in the Gemara, in the poskim. Let's say, for our purposes, we pay attention more Pesach night, but anywhere between 2 and 9 minutes, one has to eat a kazayas. Let's assume that's the time. So let's assume I'm sitting here, it's Shabbos, any other day, I have a whole challah in front of me, and I start picking at the challah, but I don't eat. Let's say I have a kazayas every half an hour, but 5 hours later, the challah is finished, and I'm definitely full. So there was no halachic achila, but I'm definitely have a sevilla. So midrabanan, I have to bench rabbinically. But min Torah, am I obligated to bench now? Because there was no achila. So it depends, what's pshat v'achalta v'savata? Is achalta an incident? Well, it's just telling me I need an achila, but achila is not the main thing. The only important, no, according to Tosfos, you need both. Of course you need v'savata, but you need a halachic achila as well. Or I'll give you one more. There's plenty of more, but I'll give you one more example. Let's say someone wants to convert to Judaism, and it's bo bayom. Today's the day they want to get their last meal in. They want to get the pork chops, the treif bread, whatever, and they have a full meal. It could be kosher also. I'm just exaggerating the point here. They could be eating kosher bread, but they have a full meal. But of course, they're not Jewish yet, so there's no mit. And then they go to the mikveh and they convert. And now they're full from the meal they ate while they were a guy.
Savata.
So on one hand it's savata, but there's no halacha kachila because they weren't. That's the Chazon Ish's question whether one would be chayiv to bench min Torah or not, because why? Because you only had a savata without. So that's the discussion within Tosfos. But Tosfos' opinion is clear that if you eat a kabeya, if you have an achila and you have a sevilla, so you are chayiv in benching min Torah. You need achila sheyesh bo sevilla. The question is according to the Ramban, who says all you need, you can't blame him, he's passing like Rav Meir. So according to the Ramban, that you chayiv in benching min Torah with the kazayis, so what's the word v'savata then? What? V'yachalta, I ate a kazayis of bread, I'm chayiv in benching. According to the Ramban, what do you need v'savata? It seems to be extra. So the Gemara says no. What does Rav Meir do v'savata? V'savata zu shtiya. V'savata means drinking. It includes drinking. So what does that mean? V'savata. So the Mordechai quotes from the Sefer Yereim. Do you know what it means? So according to Rav Meir, according to the Ramban, that if I eat a kazayas of bread, so I'm chayav and benching. But let's say I'm thirsty during the meal and I don't drink anything during the meal. So according to the Ramban and Rav Meir, one would not be chayav in benching min Torah. You still would be chayav midrabanan to be obligated in benching min Torah. It's not enough to eat a kazayas, but if you're not thirsty, so then you wouldn't have to do. But if a person wants to drink and they don't drink because they don't have a drink, so according to the Ramban, one is not chayav in benching min Torah. In fact, the Ramah quotes the shita l'chumra l'halacha. In other words, we paskin like the Bali Tosfos, halacha l'maisa, that to be chayav in benching min Torah, you need a kabeya, you need a volume. And I'll give you what's a nafkamina anyway if you're chayav min Torah midrabanim, but we'll get to that. But we paskin like the Bali Tosfos that you have to eat a kabeya volume of bread to be chayav in benching min Torah.
According to this, and must you also have drunk as well? You mustn't be thirsty afterwards.
According to who?
Irrelevant here. According to what you just said. If you eat a kabeya...
Well, I know. Tosfos already took care of it. Tosfos says you need achila sheyesh bo. So according to Tosfos, there's no drinking at all.
Oh.
I mean, you can drink, but nothing to do with the... It's pure, because he already used up both words. You need achila sheyesh bo sevilla. Tosfos, the Ramban, the Mordechai quotes, the Mordechai brings up the concept of drinking. So b'di'evet we don't paskin like we paskin like Tosfos, you don't need a drinking. However, the Ramah quotes the l'chumra. Let's say you have two people eating a kabeya, and one person drank during the meal, and one person did not drink. The one who drank should lead the zimun. The one, since the Choshesh Veshitas of Mordechai Yereim, that according to that opinion, in order to be chayav and benching min Torah, you have to drink as well. So if you have three people eating together and one drank and they all ate a kabeya and one drank, the other two didn't, the one who should lead the zimun is the one who ate the kabeya, because the Ramah quotes the Mordechai l'chumra. We don't paskin like them l'kua. We assume yechayev and benching min Torah with the kabeya without drinking. And in fact, that's the extension. Because the Mechaber writes, let's say someone in general, it's an extension of the halach. Let's say I ate a kazayas and you ate a kabeya. So you chayiv and benching min Torah, I'm chayiv and benching midrabanan. So the halach is you should lead the one who's chayiv min Torah should be again. Bismana Gemara, it wasn't just zimun. It was one person bench and everyone listened. And I was actually being motzi with your benching. But Bisman Hazeh, they say Zeman takes the place of that. So the one who's leading the Zeman, of course, all things being equal, then you give the Kohen. But let's say putting the Kohen Levi out of it, but in terms of this pure, let's say they're all Yisrael's eating. So the one who drank with the meal, he's chayiv and benching according to everyone, even according to the Mordechai. And even though we don't pass them like them, b'di'evet, but l'chatchila, then to be choshesh v'shitas Mordechai, And the Uraim, you give the one who ate a kabeya and drank over one who just ate. It's an extension of the rule. If I just ate a kazayas, you ate a kabeya, you should be leading the benching. So too, one who ate a kabeya and drank versus one who just ate a kabeya and didn't drink, the one who drank with the beya should be leading. That's the Ramah quotes that sheet in the Shulchan Aruch L'Chumrah. And others say no. Other Rishonim who don't go with the Mordechai, that's not what it means. You don't have to drink during the meal. So what do they say it means? Even according to the Ramban, even according to Rabbi, they say it's not what it means. You know what it means? It means the Savat Zushtiya, that's talking about if you drink wine, you have to make an Al Gefen. That's the Shita in the Rishonim that hold Al HaMichya and Al HaGefen are biblical, it's a biblical mitzvah. When you say to make the bracha after the Chamisha Min, after you're having cake or wine, that's a Shita in the Rishonim. That's a din daraisa. It's not a din darabanan. It's like benching. It's min Torah to say an ala michya ala gefen. It has nothing to do with drinking wine or anything during the meal. That's not what it means. The savat zushtiya means that I have to, that if I drink a certain amount of wine or if I eat a certain amount of cake, I'm chayiv in ala michya. I'm chayiv in a bracha achrona min Torah, and it's nothing to do. So it comes out. So we have a machlokes. We have a steer, a parent steer between the Gemara and Brachas and in two Gemara Brachas Daf Chaf Daf Mem Ches. Tosas says the Ikka Gemara is Daf Chaf, that we pass can eat a kabeya to be chayav in Torah and benching, and the Ramban paskins like the Rameir in the Gemara Mem Ches that a kazayas is enough. So according to Tosas, what's pshat v'achalta? Either you need achila sheyesh pos seviyah. So according to Tosas, the question whether you actually also need an achila, a halach, it's enough this to be seviyah. According to Ramban, who says you need a kazayis, so what do you need with savat at all? So you have two shitas in the Rishonah, whether it means seviyah. Well, the Gemara says seviyah zushtiya. What does that mean? Either it means you have to drink during the meal, you have to eat a kazayis and drink during the meal, or it means that no, nothing to do with the meal. Is any time you eat cake or wine and you chayiv in our gefen, that's a din daraisa. So there's a further shaila in the Rishonim that we know that there are four brachas we make a benching. The Moshe Rabbeinu instituted Hazana Sakol for the man. We know Yoshua on Eretz Yisrael. We know David and Shlomo Bona Barak Shalim Amen, and the fourth bracha, which is Midrabanan Haruge Beitar. So the Gemara quotes over there, what happens if you're a poel? And if you're a worker, and during the Zman HaGemara, apparently either people took work more seriously or employers were more makbid, either way, but they discussed what should you do if you're middle of working and you're benching. So you say you only do the three brachas, which are biblical. The fourth bracha, which is rabbinical, you can't say during work time unless the boss says it's okay. And not only that, but the Gemara says you combine bracha 2 and 3. The bracha about Eretz Yisrael and Yerushalayim is combined, so 2 and 3 are combined into one bracha. So Tosas asks, what's going on here? How could you do that? Tosas' opinion is, to fulfill your mitzvah of benching min Torah, it's not enough to do the three themes. You need 3 unique brachas. You need Hazana Sakol. So what's the Gemara talking about? How could a poel go ahead and the Gemara? So Tosas Einachinami, he's not Yotzei min Torah, but Yesh Koach B'Yach Chachamim. Like the Chacham have the power to uproot a biblical mitzvah sometimes. But what do you see clearly? The point here, according to Tosas, is to be Yotzi benching min HaTorah, you need 3 distinct brachas. And other Rishonim disagree and say, no, you don't need 3 distinct brachas. How do they know that? Because it goes like this. So when we say v'achalta v'savata, you have to be satisfied. What does that mean, you have to be satisfied? Is it an objective standard or a subjective standard? Is there an objective amount I have to have 3 steaks or 6 pieces of bread, or every person's different? Some people fill up on a little crumb and others have to eat a whole loaf of challah. So what does it depend on? So the Sefer Achinach writes it's a subjective shir in both directions. He talks about someone who only eats for the sake of staying alive, someone who he calls saintly. I guess it's not the North American practice. And he says someone who eats a little bit all the time just so he could do avodas Hashem, and he's full on that, he's chayiv and benching min Torah. And similarly, if someone has a big appetite and they need 6 loaves of bread, then they have, if they only have 4 loaves, they're not chayiv in benching, they have to eat, it's a subjective. And Rashi and Brachas disagrees and writes it's objective. So it's a machlokas, the Sefer Achinach and Rashi. We pass in like the Sefer Achinach, it's subjective. However,
it's
subjective. And then, however, it's interesting, by pasta barbekistin, that's the question. Let's say pizza is how many slices of pizza do you have to eat to say hamotzi? So that's a discussion on pasta barbekistin. But the halacha is, if you eat enough pasta barbekistin, you have to bench. So the question is that an objective shear or a subjective shear? So on that we pass in the other. We pass in pasta barbekistin is objective. If I eat, let's assume it's 3 slices of pizza. I'm just making it for argument's sake, or whatever it is. Yechayev let's say I eat 3 slices of pizza, but I'm still hungry. I need 6 slices of pizza because we pass like the Sefer Achinach. So it comes out that min Torah I'm chayev to bench, but I can't bench because I'm out of savata. So what do? So the Rishonim say you make an alamechya. How can I make an alamechya? You're having 3 themes in one bracha. Where are the 3 different brachas? So we see from here, those who disagree with Tosas and say no. You don't need 3. You can fulfill your mitzvah. If someone said alamechya by mistake instead of benching, perhaps he's yotzi. It's probably definitely yotzi is mitzvah min Torah according to those Rishonim, but maybe even midrabanan. So we see according to those Rishonim, not like Tosas, you can fulfill your mitzvah min Torah benching with 1 bracha. So it comes to how do we, so Allah L'maisa, we pass not like Tosas. We pass in that as long as you mention the 3 themes, they don't have to be, definitely not min Torah. Midrabanan, the rabbi said, they instituted 3 separate brachas. So that's the machlokes, so that's the machlokes here. We have on one hand the Sefer Achinach and Rashi regarding, in general, by eating bread, the achalta v'savata, we pass like the Sefer Achinach, it's a subjective shear. On the other hand, when it comes to pasta barbekistin, that's an objective shear. So you come out with a strange reality that you're chayav in benching, even though but you can't bench. So most people are full after whatever. Most people are full after the objective said you're going to bench. But someone who's not, it would come out he fulfill his mitzvah benching through an alamikshah. So we see, according to Oshita, alamikshah is the right, and you don't need 3 distinct brachas. 1 bracha is enough. So we were discussing last week the mitzvah of Birkas Hamazon, the mitzvah of benching, grace after meals. So the Torah tells us, V'achalta, V'savata, Uveirachta, 3 key words in the mitzvah. Literally, V'achila, you have to eat, you have to be satisfied, and then you have to make a bracha, you have to thank God. So we had a whole machloket Rishonim, apparent contradiction in 2 Gemaras, but it comes down to a machlokas Tosfos and the Ramban on what is the ikar word in the pasuk. Is the main word the achalta, or is the main word v'savata? Clearly, according to everyone, or not according to everyone, the way we follow, we're going to need both. But Tosfos focuses on v'savata. The key is you have to be satisfied. As in discussion within Tosfos, whether you also need a halachic achila or not. In other words, well, how else could you be satisfied without eating? So, halachically speaking, there are ways, but this one case is let's say a Gentile converts to Judaism. He has a big meal before he goes to his Burger King, gets his last Whopper in, and he has this whole big meal, a lot of bread, and he's full. When he converts to, when he becomes Jewish, literally coming out of the mikvah, he's full, but there was no achila because everything he did as a Gentile didn't count in terms of the obligation. A Gentile is not obligated in Birkas Hamazon. It's not one of the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach, last I checked. So therefore, would a ger be obligated in benching? So that's what the Chazon Ish discusses. He seems to go with that he thinks the achila also. The Tosas not only says you need a sevilla, but you need an achila sheyesh bo sevilla, and that's the opinion of the Chazon Ish within Tosas. And the Ramban says no. The achila is the key word. Ein achila pachas mikizayis. We know achila means all throughout Shas, throughout the Gemara. Achila is always a kazayis. So too for benching. As long as you have a kazayis, an olive side of bread, That's all you need. All right, so what do you need with Savata? So what do you need? What is Savata coming to teach me? If Achila is a Chazayis, that means I don't have to be Savata. So the Gemara says, Savata zu shtiya. That Savata means you have to drink. So in fact, that is the opinion of the Mordechai and the Uraim, that to be obligated in benching min Torah, not only is it enough that you have to eat, but you have to drink.
Drink so you're not thirsty anymore?
Right. And so if a person's not thirsty, you don't have to drink. But if a person's thirsty and not drinking, according to the Mordechai, he is not obligated in benching min Torah. You still have to bench midrabanan if you're not obligated min. So therefore, so even though we paskin like Tosas that to be obligated in benching min Torah, you need the savata. You have to be satisfied. But we do accept this opinion l'chumra for astringency. In other words, if all of us are sitting here eating a meal together, having bread, and all of us just had bread, and one of us had bread plus a drink, so then the one who had the bread plus the drink should be the one leading the benching. As I point out, during the time of the Gemara, they literally, one person benched, and everyone just listened. A lot of people go back to that day. But today, we all bench, but at least the one who does the Zeman, so even though he's not really being mostly in benching, but he's doing a little bit, so the Ramah writes l'chumra, that based on this opinion, the one who drank during the meal should lead the benching. Of course, if he just drank it in a bread, no, but if you both ate the same amount of bread, and then he drank, so therefore, because based on this opinion in the Mordechai. And others say no, but Savat has nothing to do with drinking during the meal. It has to do with al ha-michya and al ha-gefen. And if a person drinks the requisite amount of wine, it's a biblical obligation to say, just like everyone agrees it's a biblical obligation to bench after bread, though there are those opinions that say you have a biblical obligation not to bench, but to make the blessing of al ha-gefen and al ha-michya after eating the requisite amount of wine. And that's how they learn v'savata zu shtiya. It's nothing to do with eating during the meal. It has to do with what you do regularly. If you're having, after a kiddush, you have wine, you have cake. So we assume it's only d'Rabbanan, but there are those opinions, and therefore there are those who say, well, halakha, if a person is chayiv, you're chayiv in benching, you made an ala mechya by mistake, perhaps you yotzi. Then min ha-Torah, you are probably yotzi your mitzvah, because that's the whole machlokas, whether Tosfos and the others, whether min ha-Torah, do I need 3 distinct brachas, or could I have all 3 themes in one bracha? Because we said you need Hazanas HaKol for the man, you need Eretz Yisrael, you need No Delacha, the second bracha, thanking God on Eretz Yisrael. You have Bonei Yisrael, David and Shlomo building the temple. And Midrabanan, there's a 4th bracha of Harugei Beita, the miracle that the people in Beita were able to be, the bodies didn't decay and they were able to be buried. So the first 3 brachas are biblical, so we have 3 separate brachas. So Tosfos holds that's min ha-Torah. To fulfill your mitzvah of benching min ha-Torah, you have to have 3 separate brachas. And we don't assume that. What we assume, as long as you mention all 3 themes in one bracha, midrabanan, everyone agrees you have to do it. But min ha-Torah, biblically speaking, because they bring a raya from the following, that we know it says v'achalta v'savat, you have to be satisfied. So what does that mean, satisfied? Is there an objective standard that society determines what's considered a normal amount of food to be satisfied? Or I have a big appetite, or I have a very small appetite, and I'm satisfied on less, or if I'm not satisfied on a lot. So that's the machlokas, the Sefer Achinach versus Rashi. Because the Chassam Sofer raises the question that we said, what is the greatness of the Jewish people? That even though they're only obligated to bench when they're full, we even bench on a kazayas. So the question is, what do you mean bench on a kazayas? If I'm not obligated to bench on a kazayas, isn't it a blessing in vain? It's a bracha of Torah. So the Chassam Sofer explains, no, based on the Sefer Achinach, there are those who just eat. I haven't met these people yet, but the people who just eat in a saintly fashion, they only eat just in order to survive, so they could daven, do mitzvahs, and that's it. So therefore, they're used to eating very small amounts. So the Sefer Chinam, those people are chayiv to bench min haTorah. If you're used to eating a small amount, even less than a kabeya, but min haTorah, you are satisfied, you are chayiv to bench. And similarly, if a person has a nice appetite and he had 6 loaves of bread, but he's still not satisfied, he has to have the 7th or 8th if he wants to be chayiv and benching min haTorah. So the Sefer HaChinuch's opinion, it's subjective. The Rashi writes it's objective. We pass it like the Sefer HaChinuch, that it's a subjective amount, v'savata, in order to be chayiv. So therefore it comes to halacha ma'isa. If you had 2 people eating the same amount of food, but one's satisfied and one's still hungry, people like, whether they mean, oh, I'm still hungry, you hear people saying after the meal. So if that's true, so therefore they shouldn't be the one leading the benching, because min haTorah, they're still not, but the one who are, that they're satisfied and and in fact that's a bracha, in fact it's a pasuk in the Tochacha, that you'll be satisfied even by eating a little bit. And it's true, you have some people, no matter what they eat, they're always hungry, and other people are satisfied and a lot less. So that's that's a bracha thrown into the middle of the Tochacha. However, when it comes to pas haba bekisnin, that's basically we'll call it pas. That basically bread, like you take a piece of bread, you have to make hamotzi. Let's call it pizza. Pizza's a mixture of dough, but it has cheese and sauce on it. So it's a question on what bracha you make on pizza. So I said, when I was growing up in the NCSY bencher, maybe the bencher hasn't changed, not the bencher, but NCSY brachas be, it used to say, you could correct me if it still says it, 2 pieces of pizza you make borei mizonos. If you're having 3 pieces of pizza, again, I'm not getting to whose pizza, because some people have small slices. We're not going to mention names here who are selling pizza, but and you get into the stuffed crust. I like the double. So again, I'm not going to get in. I'm not going to talk about specific pizza. I'm just talking in general. But it used to be 2 pieces of pizza mizonos. The third, and then I told you when I was in L.A. like 20 years ago more. I was walking into a pizza shop in L.A. It said from wash on 1. So either you could say they just had bigger pieces, or they're cholek on that NCSY brachas be. But either way, I don't really care what they wrote in the pizza shop, and doesn't really concern me what it says in the bracha book either. Now the issue is it's a whole machlokas in the Rishonim and stuff, exactly how much you have to eat for pascha. But there is a concept where you could make a mizonos on something, and then ultimately, if you have enough, then you'd have, benching. The 2 different issues. But either way, so the question is like this. Let's say pas haba bekisnin. So let's assume, I'll go with the 3. Let's assume you have 3 pieces of pizza according to everybody. And of course, if you're having a meal with it, that makes a difference also. If you're just eating it at 1 o'clock in the morning, you're having a snack. See, that's one thing, but if you're being kovei suda, so let's assume according to everyone you have 3 pieces of pizza you should wash and make birkas hamazon. So let's assume, so pas haba bekisnin is an objective amount. So let's assume you have 3 pieces of pizza, but you're still not satisfied. In other words, that's it. I mean, you're still hungry. In other words, so by pas haba bekisnin, it's objective. So that's considered. So therefore, I'm chayiv to bench min haTorah because I had that 3 pieces of pizza, but it's not v'savata yet because I'm still hungry. So therefore, I can't. So therefore, what do you do? You make an ala michya. So we see how does ala michya help you? I'm chayiv to bench min haTorah. The answer is we see from here that min haTorah it's enough to be yotze with ala michya in that situation. So that's what we point out. In fact, that's a whole discussion regarding the obligation of women. Are women obligated in benching min haTorah biblically or rabbinically? Everyone agrees a woman who eats a meal is obligated to bench. Is she obligated to bench on a biblical level or rabbinic level? My nafkamina, the Gemara wants. What's the difference? Either way, she has to bench. The difference is, can a woman bench for a man? So if a woman's obligated on a biblical level, she's on the same level, so in theory she can bench for a man. But if she's only obligated rabbinically and I'm obligated biblically, she can't do it. So the question is, but why would I say a woman isn't obligated biblically? We know women are exempt from certain mitzvahs, but those are mitzvahs aseh shazman grama. Those are time-oriented mitzvahs. Like putting on tefillin, shaking the lulav, but benching isn't time-oriented. Whenever you're reading, so then you're chayiv to bench. It's not a time-oriented mitzvah. It's not a zman grama. So why would anyone say the opinion in the Gemara that says women are not obligated biblically? What is the logic? Why would women be? So therefore, it's a machlokas Rashi versus Tosfos. You know what Rashi says? Because what do we say in the benching in the second bracha? Al eretz chemda tova, that we thank God for giving us a chelak in the land of Israel. And we know women in terms of Yerusha don't get a chelak in Eretz Yisrael. So you'll tell me benos tzlafcha, the daughters, but they got the father's portion. That was a special situation. So strictly speaking, women don't get a Yerusha in Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, how could they say al eretz chemda tova? How could they say on the land that God gave me? So therefore, that Rashi says that's why they're only chayav midrabanan in benching, not biblically. And Tosfos says, what are you talking about? What about me? What about Shevet Levi? What about Richard? He's a Kohen. What about me? I'm a Levi. Shevet Levi doesn't get a chelak ba'aretz. So therefore, he says that's not the reason why. In fact, there are those who conclude, the Shotei Giborim conclude, that Shevet Levi would not be chayiv in benching min HaTorah either. We don't follow that opinion. We know the minhag is to give a Kohen to lead benching. But Tosfos has nothing to do with the chelak ba'aretz. It has to do with al brischa shechasamta v'sareinu v'tarescha. Part of the mitzvah of the second bracha is you say the mitzvah of bris milah, and the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. So since a woman clearly is not obligated in the mitzvah of bris milah, and also technically speaking she's patur from Talmud Torah per se, so that's what Tosfos' opinion is why a woman would be exempt min HaTorah from benching. So it's a machlokas Rashi and Tosfos why a woman would not be obligated in benching min HaTorah, either because if they don't have a chelak ba'aretz, they don't get a portion in the land, or no, nothing to do with that. It has to do with bris v'torah. What would Rashi answer up? Rashi knew that. So he knew about that they don't get a chelak ba'aretz, and yet he said, so what's the machlokas Rashi and Tosfos? Why would it be an issue? Because the issue is because Shevet Levi does get a portion. We know the 48 cities, the Arei Migrash that they have, that is built into they don't have a chelak ba'aretz because they get to live in the 48 cities that they put up the Kohanim and the Leviim. So therefore, the 48 cities either count as part, or we know the Kohanim get Truma and Meiser, so the Kohanim and Leviim do get produce from it. That is considered a chelak. But that's the machlokus over there between Rashi and Tosfos in terms of what, according to the opinion that women are only chayav midrabanan in benching, not min HaTorah. Why would they not be chayav min HaTorah? Either according to Rashi because they don't have a chelak ba'aretz, and therefore when we say that's part al eretz chemda tova, that's an inherent part of the benching. But Tosfos says no, it has to do with bris v'torah, and therefore, and as we pointed out, this like someone, therefore a woman, can't bench for a man because a woman's only chayav b'drabanan. And this like someone who only ate an olive amount of bread can't bench for someone who had a kabeh and egg side, because someone who only had a kazayah is only obligated rabbinically. So someone who had a kedei seviyah should bench. And we said in taking it to the next step, someone who they both ate a kedei seviyah, but one person was thirsty and didn't drink. Another person was thirsty and he did drink, so therefore the one who drank should lead the benching, because according to the Mordechai, to be chayiv and benching min HaTorah, it's not enough just to eat, but you also have to eat a kedei seviyah.
Thank you.